here, and then I'll have her introduce herself to you guys. All right. So, Deborah, welcome, and please take a couple minutes and introduce yourself.
Hi, Sarah. I'm a little nervous about this.
Don't be nervous. It's so much fun. I love talking to you.
I like to describe myself as an old hippie in Vermont.
I love that.
I may not be the oldest rider in the book, but I think I'm probably close or tied at 63. I think most of the ladies I've seen in the interviews have been in their late 50s that I've seen that are older. And I didn't start until I was 53. So I got a late start.
Wow.
And, I've been a commercial seamstress my whole career, doing slipcovers and draperies and working for interior decorators. And so from one extreme to the other, from the soft arts to the hard bike.
That's awesome. So what made you decide to start riding?
Well, I tried a motorcycle once right after my daughter was born in 1980. My husband had I don't even know what it was. It was some sort of maybe dirt bike, and he put me on it. I couldn't reach the ground. He had to kickstart it for me. He sent me up the street and around the field on it, and I got back without crashing, and he was very impressed. And I have a little picture of me flying by, and but I never could reach the ground on any bikes, and I wasn't heavy enough to kickstart them, so that sort of put it on the back burner. And then when my husband got another motorcycle when we were in our 50s, I tried riding on the back, and it was so uncomfortable. And one of the other gals said that she had control issues and didn't want to be on the back. That's probably part of it too. I like to be in control. So
Yeah.
He didn't have to push me too hard. After I sat on a bike that I could reach the ground on at Springfield Motorcycle Show, which we're going to as soon as the interview's over today. And I was so thrilled. And a couple weeks later, my husband bought me my first bike. And I started riding. That was in 2007.
So what kind of trip did you go on last summer?
Boy, I didn't get to do any real trips last summer. I'm still recovering from a third Lyme disease infection. It's been a real tough couple of years for me. I've been infected 3 times in 6 years. And I've spent a lot of really nice days on the couch, which is pretty depressing. So I did mostly day trips, but some of our day trips are 200-mile rides. So it's not so bad. But before this last year, my parents had a place up in Winnipesaukee right near Weirs Beach and right in Laconia. And we would just ride our bikes up there to mow the lawn for them. You know, it's a 160-mile ride each way and say, oh, yeah, we're going up to mow the lawn. And we would take a beautiful ride. And then we'd go up around the Franconia Notch and down through Lincoln and New Hampshire, all around Mount Washington, and do that in between mowing the lawn and head home. So that was one of our favorite longer trips that we would take regularly, probably every month or so for quite a few years. We go to Hampton Beach every September. We've tried to always go on the bikes. This last year I had to go in the car because I was too sick to take the bike, but I'm not giving up. I got 6,700 miles in this season, even though I didn't take any long trips. So,
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's what they tell me, but I felt like a dud because my husband goes out with his buddies besides and rides everywhere. So he probably got another 10,000 miles over me, but.
Aww. So what trip are you going to take next summer? Do you have a dream trip?
We would love to take a real long trip and start across country. Right now I have a 19-year-old cat that can't be left alone. So I'm playing nursemaid to him besides nursemaiding myself, but that would be our dream trip. Short trips, we're hoping to at least get back up to the White Mountains again this summer. My parents sold their place up there. My dad's 90 now. They didn't want a second home anymore. My parents were downhill skiers and skied into their 70s. So I'm hoping I'm going to ride my motorcycle at least into my 70s. That's my goal. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. And they live about an hour and a half away. We ride our bikes up there all the time to visit and have lunch. So even in March, if we can get the weather. So I put my snow coat on and we go over the mountain. I said I need a snowmobile outfit. The only month we haven't ever ridden in is February. We've ridden a couple times in January, a lot in March. Some years we get 1,000 miles in March, even though it's Vermont. And
Wow.
we had a warm spell in 2016, and we rode on Christmas Eve which was amazing. We took our coffee thermoses, and I had a string of Christmas lights, and we went out to one of our favorite stops and sat and had coffee, lit the thermoses up with the Christmas lights.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, we have a good time. We do picnic table runs. They're in the 100, 150, 200-mile runs. We go out around New England and stop at all our favorite picnic tables for coffee and pictures of the view.
That is so cool. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about getting into riding?
The same advice all the other ladies have given so far. Take the course. I did ride 30 miles in a parking lot next to my husband's business before the course, which was great for me. And it was on a Rebel, which is what they had available at the course. And I had a chance to practice slipping the clutch and getting used to how to get going and shift. But I did have my first real good falling over experience in the parking lot, second day I ever rode. And I tell about that in the story. I hit my head good and hard on the pavement. I've never failed to wear my helmet. I was glad I had it on. So, yeah, take the course. My instructor was a National Guardsman who'd been to Iraq several times, and he was really good. He really knew how to teach, and he knew how to present safety information. He was wonderful. And we laughed because our course was in the parking lot at the regional hospital. So we crashed. The emergency room is right there.
That's very nice.
Yeah, we got a good laugh out of that.
Cool. So what made you decide to submit a story to the book?
It was sort of interesting because I saw your post on Facebook, and I wanted to ask you how you went about putting the information out there, because I had liked your post when it came through my feed, but then you sent me a private message inviting me to submit a story. And I had thought about it when I saw the original post, but I was like, there's going to be people who got a lot more to say than me. And then when I got the private message, I was like, well, that's the universe telling me to do it. And I did a bachelor's degree between the ages of 48 and 52. I went to college during the day full time with the traditional aged kids, the 18 to 22 year olds. And I had a ball. That was like 10, 12 years ago. And I did great, and I took writing classes, and everybody told me I should write a book. So I thought, well, this is a good chance to see if if it's true or not. So I worked on that story like I was doing an English comp assignment. I brutalized myself over it. I've got pictures of the whole table covered with papers and rewrites. And I treated it like I was going to turn it into my professor when I was in college. And when I got your email saying I'd been accepted to the book, I cried. I was so thrilled.
That's so nice.
I made an old broad happy.
Oh,
so how did you go about deciding how to reach out to find all of us? I'd love to hear the answer to that.
So, I posted on Facebook. I created the page, and then I posted on there. And then what I tried to do was pay attention to women who responded to it.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you respond, then chances are you're kind of interested.
Yeah.
And then if you responded and then I could message you, then I messaged people and said, hey, if you're interested, please submit. Because this is the first time I ever did this book. So nobody knew me. You guys didn't know who I was. And so I thought I knew that I wanted to attract women who were the rebel souls, who had that kind of confidence, who said, hey, I can ride a motorcycle, and who also had golden hearts. And for me, the person with the golden heart is somebody who's willing to share their oops stories, who are willing to do things for others and are willing to go out of their way, because I think that that's the one of the things that makes women who ride so special, is because it is that big community. I was telling Tara in the interview before that it's like a big group hug.
Yes.
And this whole experience for me has been exactly like a big group hug. I found women who are totally awesome and who ride motorcycles and are just caring and generous. And then all the stories came together, and my editor and my proofreader and they were giving me this feedback about, oh my gosh, Sarah, that I've laughed, I've cried. This is what I've heard. I've laughed, I've cried, I've been inspired. And that's what this book is all. That's what I dreamed when I started working on the book, is I dreamed that it would inspire new rebel souls, women who think they want to ride but just aren't quite there yet because they haven't found the courage.
I think
And
that's true.
I believe the book's going to do that.
I was fortunate enough. I was a Girl Scout leader for 16 years. And a lot of my Facebook friends are my former Girl Scouts who are now in their 30s and have children. And the kids I went to college with who are also in their 30s now and having their children. And they have been very encouraging. They always root me on when I post my stories of riding with Stephen, and tell me I'm cool, which an old broad needs to hear once in a while. It's great.
Yeah,
This has
absolutely.
been a wonderful experience, and I'm so thrilled. What a spread of people. It's just fantastic to see all the different walks of life that come into this. My husband and I were watching the interviews last night, and we so enjoyed the English professor and her talking about doing the blues trail. My husband plays in a band. He plays lead guitar and he plays blues. And so we were immediately and just intrigued by that. We thought that sounded like a fantastic trip.
I know. I'm not even into blues music, but I was like, man, I'd like to go on that trip.
It sounded great. I'd like to go to Yellowstone too. That sounds wonderful also. Might have to do that on the train though. At my age, I'm not sure I can endure a trip that far, especially on my 250. I know you've asked people about their bikes. I can't even stand up most bikes. Even the Shadow was a challenge for me to stand up. About 5 years ago, my husband had been encouraging me to get a bigger bike. But since we couldn't find one that I could actually handle, he ended up changing the gearing on my bike. He put a different size sprocket on it. Being a mechanic, he understands these things. And so it'll go right along at road speed, 60 miles an hour without sounding like it's going to explode, which is a good thing.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. What I'm going to do when we finish this interview is I'm going to post a picture in the comments that you sent in. I didn't make it the picture on your quote picture that I did, but I absolutely love, you guys have a picture and you're holding a card and it has the pound sign ride with Stephen, and it's your boots.
Yep. And it's my 80,000 mile day too. It says 80,000 miles on it. I made it to 83,000 miles before the end of this season. So I'm pushing for 100,000. I tell him, me and the bike are going down together. I'm not replacing her. All the miles are on her. And so the bike had 8,000 miles on it when I got it. So she's got about 90,000 miles on her now. And when I get to 108,000 on her, I'll have my 100,000. So.
Yep. And people, you post your ride with Stephen, right? You have that, and people can follow you.
Yeah.
And follow
Hashtag riding with Stephen, capital S on Stephen, and his name is spelled PHEN, riding with Stephen. Absolutely. And I've checked. The pictures do come up. The posts come up. And,
that's super cool.
Yeah, I love sharing the pictures. My family and everybody are spread around, and so it's a chance to stay in touch with everybody and share the fun.
Fantastic. Deborah, thank you for being a contributor.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day. Go enjoy the motorcycle show.
Thanks. I will.
All right. Have a good day.
Good day.
Bye. All right, everyone. So we'll have more interviews later on this afternoon. The Kindle edition of the book is free right now if you would like to download it. The paperback version is available in print if you want an actual book, which I love books. So that's why I did a book too, because I just love books. But the coolest part about the book, I just love this, and hopefully you guys can see that, is that this is the very first page inside the book. And so what I did was I did to, from, and the date. So if you buy it and give it to a woman who you think should ride, you can write something to that person and make it a memorable experience. So I'll be back in a little bit with our next contributor. Have a great day so far, you guys.